Now, the topic for this is obviously we're talking about tech disruptions. And as if on cue, we already disrupted the stage. We only had 4 chairs before this, but the topic is so comprehensive and exhaustive that we needed more chairs. So there's some bit of disruption that's already happened. Welcome all of you once again to ETAuto Tech Summit 2022. Now this is something that we have been hearing about since morning, that there is disruption happening all around us. And automotive sector is one where it is not something that's unheard of or very uncommon. We have seen changes all the time. As we say, change is the only constant, and a vehicle which goes from one place to the other, how can that not change? But this time around, the changes are more wholesome, and across fields we will see a whole new dimension of technologies come in. And this next 1 hour, we will try and discuss all of that. We have a very esteemed set of panelists. It's a mix of established companies and also new companies. And that is the main key takeaway here, that the companies will change. There will be new players that will come in. Some may actually die out. So on that note, let me start off with Dr. Shankar Venugopal. You represent Mahindra, and Mahindra has been grappling with this change for quite some time now. And you are in a way trying to force the change also with electrification, but we'll come to electrification later. Just your thoughts on how do you think technology is going to be the game changer going forward? What are the kind of disruptions that you are seeing in the passenger vehicle domain, and how is Mahindra going about it?
Sure. I think this is the most exciting time to be in the automotive space, because we always read about big technology disruptions and change of technologies. But here is the opportunity where we are part of it. Each one of us can contribute to making this big shift. So I'm sure you are all familiar with what is disrupting the automotive space. Name it electric, connected, autonomous, and not only technology disruptions, also the business model disruptions, which is the shared mobility models coming in. So it's a combination of this which is making this whole landscape very, very exciting. And the best part of it is all these technologies are growing exponentially. So we have been so used to seeing incremental changes in technology for so many decades. But today, all the technologies that we are talking about are growing exponentially. And to add to that, they are also converging very fast. So the kind of change that they can bring about is phenomenal. And all of this can happen before you realize it's happening. So that's a pace at which all these changes are happening. So it's what it means to us is we should be very, very quick to reskill ourselves, be very quick to adapt new technologies, at the same time adapt new business models also. And stay as close to the customers as possible, so that we are leveraging all these technologies to really create value that the customer would care for. I think this is the mantra for us to make sure that we leverage the technologies and create value for the customer. That's critical.
So while businessmen say that change is welcome and let's embrace change, we know for a fact that really nobody really likes change. Status quo is what you hope for, that everything will remain as it is, because that's the best case scenario for any businessman. So all of these disruptions, does that also make you a little nervous that somebody else like Tesla can come about and completely take the whole market away from you?
Absolutely, absolutely. In a way, it makes things very democratic. Whether you are small or big really doesn't matter. What is the idea that you are pursuing and how much conviction, belief you have in that idea, that's what is going to be the differentiator. So that way, it's a level playground for all.
Right. Let me bring in Mr. M.S. Shankar and also Mr. Shrivastava later on, because you represent in a way, the spine of the industry. We know that OEMs, what they do is they assemble cars, whereas the real stuff comes from your factories. So to that extent, this will probably pinch you a little bit more, because all of that has to change with you first before it goes into a Mahindra or a Maruti factory. How are you embracing the change?
Thank you, Sumant, for calling us the spine of the industry. Thank you very much. Thank you. It gives us strength. So I need to stand up. Okay, the way we look at it is possibly in three parts. Let's look at what is happening. We are discovered in the last few years, specifically in the last 2 years, that design in India has started happening in no uncertain way. It is independent of classical global tier 1 using an emerging pool of startups. Sharma ji is there, right? And these startups are West End in India. Anand is a part of it. We have got a startup-like company. So this is a discovery. What is an insight? Right? This is something unnerving, but I need to say it. Technology comes last. Technology comes last is the belief that we have developed in the last 4 years. What comes first is identifying the need of the user or the consumer, not even the OEM. Identify the need of the user, followed by concept. What is the concept of a function or product or a service or feature you are going to provide? And then technology is an executor of this need through the conceptualize. This has to be backed up by agility. We have been pushed around by all OEMs, what we call as new gen OEMs, is the startups, and the old gen OEMs. Everybody has asked us to reduce product development time to less than 6 months. Unheard of. But we have a story within Anand. We have done it. We have done a startup in 10 months' time, started series production, and now we have set a benchmark of rolling out series of cousin products in less than 3 months' time. Now, why do I say this, that all this true? We have to go to the first panel discussion today, mobility tech megatrends. Mr. Davar said, he imagined customizing a vehicle used by multi-user. I get out of the car, my namesake Shankar gets it and he wants a transformed car. That is the speed of need of the customer. And then Mr. Deepak Jain made a statement. It's difficult to find partners, so you need to start to learn to work with startups. So we have to leverage it. So this is my take on how technology will disrupt in the next few years.
Thank you for summarizing this. So any of you, if you have missed the first few sessions, you got a summary here. So thank you for that. Mr. Shrivastava, if you want to add your bits to this, how are you looking at this? Is it an opportunity or is it just a headache?
I would like to summarize in different way. Now we are at a juncture where demand are coming from multiple direction. So if you see, there is a end user requirement for the safety and the traffic efficiency. Then there is a passion to leapfrog with respect to our counterpart in China. And for example, I was in Mahindra, so I heard from his colleague only. So we want to go ahead from China. So this passion, okay, and then business case. So, and then again, government direction, for example, EV and all. So there are multiple areas which is driving us for these changes. And out of these changes, whatever we are talking about case, connectivity is everywhere. Whether autonomous or electrical or said mobility. Connectivity, without connectivity, nothing can happen. So Danlaw, which I represent, focusing on connected vehicle solution. And recently, in last month, in MSPT, we demonstrated V2X technology, which is the latest. That is a cellular V2X on XEV 7.0, and it was a fantastic demonstration. And then 3 years back, we had done the same thing through the DSRC. Within 3 years, technology has changed drastically, and we are demonstrating CV2X, and we are planning to do on 5G. So again, Mahindra demand is that why not within the next 6 months you do the demo on the 5G. So things are also the technology disruption is creating the change on the passenger vehicle side. So I can touch upon so many areas, but what I mean to tell that there are so many factors which are driving these changes, and this is the right opportunity for supplier like us to do the innovation, okay? And I feel that many company, I am not telling only Danlaw, many company, okay, will try to utilize this time to do some innovative thing and get benefited from the business wise, as well as to show that how India is going ahead with respect to other countries.
Correct. So necessity is the mother of invention. If the consumer is changing, if the tech is changing, then what options does anybody have but to change? It also opens up a sea of opportunities for anybody who's willing to listen and willing to innovate. And we have somebody here who is mapping the India, as we know, MapmyIndia. And so I will come to you and give us your sense of how big an opportunity do you really look at? And you are at the heart of connectivity. Like Mr. Shrivastava mentioned, connectivity is everywhere. Your mobiles are connected, your car is connected. How is MapmyIndia connected to this?
Thanks a lot for having me. MapmyIndia's objective is basically to bring as much disruptive technology or as much futuristic technology to Indian consumers, to Indian OEMs, to fleet owners, and to the government as soon as possible. I mean, what drives us is why should the rest of the world be ahead? Why can't India leapfrog? And so in this maps plus technology area, and in our parlance, N case, navigation-led, connected, ADAS, shared, and electric, lot of interesting innovations we are bringing, which we are so happy to see kind of our OEM customers being able to take it to a much larger audience. Because fundamentally, we're B2B2C players. So for example, disruption that Gadkari ji is talking about is bringing GPS-based tolling to create kind of free flow of traffic. And everybody's wondering, how can that be? Well, as an example, MapmyIndia has the tollable stretches of roads across the country. And so in our app, the consumer app is called Mapples, and the SDK or the navigation SDK sits in OEMs. It will start giving you an alert that you're entering the tollable stretch, you're exiting the tollable stretch. You have traveled 250 meters on this toll road. That multiplied by the rate will be the kind of the kilometer rate or the GPS-based tolling rate. And we all do all the geofencing on the high definition lanes of maps, etc. So that's one example of how disruption is coming. India will lead, and what role kind of we are playing in that. Similarly, on electric vehicles, the biggest kind of challenge many people were saying earlier was range anxiety, where what we said is we can solve for that by telling somebody, just because you have 80% charge doesn't mean you can travel in a circle around you. It's not just that simple. Based on terrain, based on traffic, based on your driving behavior, the road distances, etc., it kind of looks like a spider, the distance you can travel. And that is very dynamic. It changes every few minutes. And so that dynamic range calculation and that spider map is what we kind of help the OEMs show to the consumer, so that at the end of the day, they can simply say, I want to go from here to the airport. Will I reach in time or will I not reach on time? And then automatically reroute through a electric charge station. So, and the final interesting thing, ADAS is becoming a very important topic. I mean, road safety, accident removal, prevention, etc. So what disruption we are bringing in is what we call soft ADAS or preventive ADAS. Now, not just giving you traffic congestion on your route, but if you again use our app or you start seeing it on maps in vehicles which are powered by us, you'll start seeing speed camera alerts or speed breaker or pothole or accident-prone zones. So in a sense, it's alerting you before an accident can happen. And so in that sense, just that information and alertness can be very useful for drivers. And then finally, when the machine to machine is happening, this intelligent speed assist, etc., our horizon maps, our ADAS technology is helping the car itself or the two-wheeler itself understand what's up ahead in the horizon, and accordingly kind of control the actuation of the vehicle. And it's not just innovation we are doing as a company. We are also investing in startups. Such an interesting startup that we invested in is providing ADAS facilities for two-wheelers in the helmets. It's kind of LED lights below your eye line, which instead of having to see a phone or get the turn-by-turn navigation just visually on the cluster, you can also see it's not a heads-up display, it's a below eye line display. And so as the turn is coming up, or if there's some kind of alert, you'll start seeing kind of red lights flicker on left or right. So many different disruptions that are coming that will be very useful for consumers, and health's kind of value will flow to OEMs and fleet owners and the government itself. So that's what's exciting for us.
When you mentioned GPS for two-wheelers, I noticed the glint in the eye of Mr. Sharma. That, oh really, can that be part of Okinawa? So one of the biggest talking points, the biggest headlines that we get is obviously on electrification, and especially electric two-wheelers. And I don't know how many people here know that last month Okinawa was the largest selling electric two-wheeler brand in the country. And there's a huge, intense battle going on, of course, between Hero and Ola and Okinawa as well. So this is the cue for me to bring him in. This disruption we know is playing out. The only thing that we don't know is by when will electric two-wheelers or electrification in general become really mainstream in India. Give us your thoughts on that, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you, Sumant. So first of all, let me tell you, when we talk about the disruption, it is not about the technology, it is not about the change. It is about first the mindset of the people, because the thought process of the people. Because I still remember when we started Okinawa 5-7 years ago, people always says that this is not the right time. It will take few years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe 20 years also. But if you see in last couple of years or last 2 years, there's a lots of changes already happened, because everyone who are sitting in this hall, when we born, we have seen only ICE engine. That time people doesn't know about what is EV and how it will going to behave in the future. But at the end of the day, everybody understand that technology is changing from IC to EV in a very faster mode. It is happening because of when the people talk about disruption, I think disruption is already happened, because it is already in the mind of the people, starting from the policymaker, from supplier, OEMs, dealers, even the customer. People also understand that this is the future. If we go for it, I think that is the best thing. In terms of economics, in terms of the future technology, as today we are sitting here we talk about the connected vehicles. Because if you see in the ICE engine, of course now in the cars, these things are coming from few years, but two-wheeler it is not there. But now if you talk about the EV, electric two-wheelers, you will find everything. Connected vehicle is there. It is all artificial intelligence, IoT, everything is there. So these vehicles now become more electronics vehicle. So that is the change point. And whenever any change happening, it will change overnight. People even don't imagine when this technology shift from last technology to the future technology. And I think the time has come up and disruption is already happened. And I think everybody's witnessed this, whether it's a four-wheeler in EV, the two-wheeler in EV, and I think the time has come.
So, Mr. Sharma, a lot of startups talk about the fact that when they first went to a vendor saying that I want this particular part for my electric two-wheeler or electric four-wheeler, the vendor just said that, who are you? I don't know you. Where are you coming from? I think this is something that you also faced. How has that situation changed? And then I will come to the component side as well. That did you, in a way, initially rubbish some of these startups aside, saying that, sorry, I don't know you guys. But what has been your experience? How has that changed?
I think in the past, of course, 4-5 years back, it was the story like this. But that time also, even the good supplier, they understand this is going to change the market. This is the future, and that is one of the reason. When we started, Initially, I still remember in the first model which we launched in 2017, we have 65% parts were localized. Because when we talk to the supplier, we just tell them this is a feature, even they also convinced. That time the government was start talking about the EV. So they understand if they invest today, they're investing for future, not for today. And that is one of the reason today, if you see all even the suppliers in India, because India is one of the biggest supplier chain. So they all talking about the EV, they understand this is the future. In fact, Mr. Shankar is sitting here. He's one of our supplier who supplies motor to us for the last 1 year. So that is one of the story maybe Mr. Shankar can tell in a better way how they come up with the Okinawa. So this is the thought process of the business. If you talk about the business, of course they understand end of the day it is a business for them. They are investing for future. And now the people are changing. Everybody wants to invest in the EV only because they understand it's the future. And that is one of the reasons everybody is investing a huge amount of money in that. Even everybody, you will see one and another suppliers declaring in their press release and other thing, they are investing 500 crores, 1,000 crores for this EV products only, whether it's a two-wheeler or the four-wheeler. So now the time has changed. I think right now there is no challenge for anyone. And if somebody have the good planning, good business plan, they can get the benefit from this supply chain from India.
So, Mr. Shankar, was your industry initially a little reluctant to trust these new kids on the block?
I don't think we had that problem. We didn't have that problem. I think the real problem we had was internal. How much should we invest? Which is our customer and what is the product? It took us 3 months' time, no more. That here was an opportunity for us. We are known, Anand is known as a preferred partner of OEMs. And for us, that's why I use the word new gen OEMs and classical OEMs. So the classical OEMs did have this close to the heart. I need to understand the motor, otherwise how will I buy it from my customer, from my supplier? But here were a bunch of at least 2 companies. One of them is obviously Okinawa. He has already announced that here was a customer who said, I don't know, I need your help. And then came the sheer trust and transparency. So what was aligned between then the Anand corporate team of 3 people and Mr. Sharma's team was, they are having field failures. Normal, nothing big, but they said, can you fix them? Done. What else do you want? What is missing? Now a company like Okinawa has been testing their scooters rigorously for over 4 years. So they knew all the points, and one of the key players over there was their marketing head who sat through the first discussion. So he put a set of points that he said, I need it fixed. I said, okay, fine. That was the first time we discussed, not with the engineering people, with their marketing people. Then came the challenge. What part to develop? We did not know. We did not get an LOI.
Isn't that refreshing that the classical manufacturers will come to you with a design saying that this is the part I want?
No, it has changed. It has changed.
And now the startups say this is the problem I have. You fix the problem and give us the part.
Exactly. So that was one big change. Second big change was internally. We always looked at a 3-year business plan. Commitments, LOIs, business 1, category A, category B, C. Here we had none. So as a team of 3 people, right at the board level, we took a decision. Let us choose Okinawa because they welcomed us. Let us build a motor. First we said motorcycle, then we went with Sharma ji's team. Hub motor bana, because we had eliminated hub motors from our strategy. Low running, but then that is running. And what we did was a revelation to ourselves because we decided to adopt the methodology of classical innovation. So the story over here is 26th January 2021, over a virtual meeting without paper signed, the 2 chairmen of Anand and our collaborator Mando said, go ahead and put up a plant. Condition, you will spend only 25% of your outlay. Show that you can do it, then we'll do it. We put all resources together. No physical visits to our machine manufacturer's line, but we set up camera rooms where we did CMK run on machines. So what I'm saying is, we did 3 things. Number 1, we said we will adopt first time right, every time right principle. Second is manufacturing excellence. That is, we will follow all the classical processes of quality function deployment, DFMEA, PFMEA. And we challenged even our partner and said, we need to have a process control plan for the samples we'll build. And the greatest thrill I had, gentlemen, when I led this project was, we built 56 motors for testing, not within Anand because we didn't have time, but we went to our competitor, requested him and built those motors. All 56 were tested and they gave us results which were provided through simulation by our collaborators. And then jointly we built machines, designed machines, got it from China. So I got nothing against anybody. All the thing I have got against anybody it is about not following a methodology by consciousness. If you follow a methodology by consciousness, need first, concept next, technology last. So that is what brought us. And today, it's a great thrill for me to announce that we set up the plant with 66,000 capacity per year. We booked orders for 350,000 in the month of May. By December, we'll have a capacity of 360,000 motors made in Bhiwadi. Other than the magnet, everything is sourced from India. Thank you.
How many times have we heard of two rivals collaborating to solve a problem? I have not heard of many. So this is probably...
Sir, they are not rivals. The other thing that I want to show is, what won their heart was we promising that we will put up the R&D center first, then we'll put up the manufacturing plant. So the first order that I signed up was all dynamometer test beds, not 5 of them.
Correct. Engineering first, manufacturing later. Mr. Shrivastava, I will ask you a question, and some of it I am drawing from my own experience. The number of press releases I get from new electric vehicle companies, it completely bamboozles me, and I'm not able to decide which ones are the legitimate, diligent ones and which ones are just fly-by-night operators. As a component industry person, you must be getting more than that number of requests from any company that is coming up and saying that, oh, I want you to make this part for me. How do you decide? Because you cannot be trusting all of them, yet you need to take a leap of faith and trust a few, taking the risk that some of it may not materialize. How do you, as a company head, take that call?
It depends, actually. First of all, right now my company is not working in the EV, but I can make the analogy and I can reply that. Okay. So, see, in his case, the scenario was different. Okay. So I don't want to bring his case. So,
The whole world is connected, sir. Even IC is connected, manufacturing is connected,
yes.
decision making is connected.
Okay.
It's
So,
not just EVs, it's any kind of new technology that comes in. There
Yes.
are so many companies now.
So what I would say that, for example, there are, because I joined Danlaw only 5 months back. In my role, I interacted with 3 of the, 1 OEM and 2 tier ones, okay? And they come up with the requirements. I want the thing within 15 days, okay? So what I mean to tell, this kind of requirement, I want to take it within 9 months to the market. I want in the 24 model year vehicle. This is the requirement you people giving, isn't it? So how it will happen? The company who have already experimented, demonstrated, confident, they only can deliver. Simple. So you have to be ready. Unless until as a supplier you are not ready, you are gone out of race. So we could able to be in the race because we have already worked on these technologies for many years. We have demonstrated in like USA, so many projects are running. So that's why we could able to do, okay, two weeks, no problem, I come, we will do that, no problem. 24 model year vehicle, within 9 months we will deliver you. That kind of confidence any supplier has to do, and for that, everyone has to be ready with all the technologies. That is what I would.
So, Dr. Shankar, the elephant in the room is that while everybody wants to say that, yes, future technologies is good, let's embrace it, let's work on it, we will bring in new products. We know that the passenger vehicle industry seems to be a little more reluctant towards matching their words by their actions. what is it that is holding these manufacturers back? And I'm not talking about Mahindra, I'm generally talking about the industry.
Sure, sure. I think with new technologies, new business models, everything changing, the OEMs are suddenly taken by surprise with so many changes on all sides. So they are looking at ideas which are scalable, not just innovative ideas, but that are scalable because they are so used to mature technologies and very, very mature business models. They're making sure that they are not just picking up some idea just for its novelty or innovation's sake, but making sure they are also mature, scalable, and manufacturable, a whole bunch of things which any OEM is so used to looking at. Plus, OEMs also, they are on a very fast track mode preparing for all these changes in terms of reskilling their workforce. They have a very large workforce which has been working on ICE technology for so many decades. So within the next couple of years, they have to get everybody fully ready to work on a vehicle which is electric, connected, and autonomous, which is a lot of work in terms of reskilling. Again, the time available for the new product development, all OEMs want to get a lot of electric vehicles to the market in the next 2 years time frame. So the time available for a new product development from concept to getting it out to the market is shrunk. So that's also keeping the OEMs really, really very busy. So I think this is a reason why you don't see that visible momentum from the OEMs, but there is a lot of work happening behind the screen in terms of new product developments, reskilling, preparing to adapt to new business models. And if you look at the collaborations that OEMs are getting into, collaborating with other big companies, startups, collaborating with academia, government, you see that's a true indicator because they realize that there is only so much one can do if you're trying to do it alone. You need to very quickly expand your networks, collaborate, and come up with win-win models so that there is something in it for everybody. So you'll be able to easily see evidences of that with all the OEMs, not only from India but across the globe. That's a true indicator that they're already on it.
Does the definition of scale also needs to be relooked at? Because in the future, we may not just have vehicles on 4 wheels or 2 wheels. There could be air taxis, there could be drones, there could be hyperloops. There is so many other things that might come up, which will eventually eat into the automobile sector. Or maybe the automobile sector will embrace and expand to include all of these. So that scalability that we look at when we talk about lakhs of vehicles of one particular model being built, is that likely to also change?
I think scale, yeah, you're right. We should redefine what we mean by scale because technology as a platform, for example, if we talk about the skateboard architecture for the EVs, the floor is going to have the battery pack, motors, all the functional elements are going to be there. On the top, you have like a top hat, various designs coming in. So that gives the flexibility to OEMs to churn out variety of models catering to the needs of various segments of customers. But the base technology is the same. And it's highly modular so that you'll be ready to meet varying demands. So that gives a lot of flexibility and also kind of agility to the OEMs. They'll be always ready. And based on what the customers ask for, they'll be able to quickly make what they want and give it. So I think that's a new situation to be in because we have never in that kind of situation with the earlier technology. But EV allows you to do that. So that's a big change.
So more modularity is required,
Absolutely.
more agility and flexibility is required. Rohan, we have seen a lot of connectivity options come into vehicles, but there is a feeling that all of it is coming in because it's already there in Europe or US, so it's filtering down now into India. Is there enough engineering or R&D happening for India-specific needs? Because this is something that we have seen in the recent cases of battery fires, and I'll come to that with Mr. Sharma later, where it seems that the industry had not done its bit in terms of R&D, testing, validation, etc. Do you think in connectivity also there is a need for more India-specific research?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And from our vantage point, where we work with a lot of OEMs and the large ones as well as the new age ones, IC, EV, 4-wheeler, 2-wheeler, there's definitely a kind of variation in how much effort each OEM is putting into R&D and localization towards Indian consumers' needs. from our perspective, we try to give them a toolkit that they can completely customize for India. So just to name like a few good examples, the way Ola Electric with their Move OS 2 has been providing navigation, there's n number of themes. The map changes based on the mood of the person, besides of course being accurate and having all those other features. So a lot of R&D, a lot of kind of thinking through the user experience, that deep integration happened there. Or on the flip side, EV OEMs who are in the battery swapping or whose vehicles have battery swappable kind of capabilities, putting the IoT devices in the battery, as a capability we give them with our IoT. You can monitor the health, you can see SOC, you can see kind of the different parameters. And so when they are investing in such kinds of capabilities, we know for sure that they are thinking through all the potentially bad scenarios that might happen in a vehicle. Or more recently, with the way Mahindra has been kind of focused on ADAS in such a big way, and now ISA as a intelligent speed assist will come out soon. These tell you that actually there are OEMs who are quite focused on localization. And yes, unfortunately, there are some OEMs who are kind of bringing in global technology, but we do see that mindset change, where the Indian consumer, Indian market is large enough now to demand its own user experiences. And so with whether it's the global OEMs, we do see kind of these India-specific navigational or telematics or ADAS or electric kind of platform solution requirements. So that's a good sign.
So is India ready for autonomous or advanced ADAS systems, or we are simply not a market for that?
No, I think, see, it's a journey that the user has to be, or the driver has to be taken on, and hence the OEMs and we kind of are working on this journey together. Like I said, we're starting off with kind of soft ADAS, which actually is probably going to be its first of its kind in the world, where, typically ADAS globally is very sensor heavy. Now that is very expensive. And so bringing that to market might be a challenge for both OEMs as well as consumers. Whereas these innovations where, if you can alert somebody without needing kind of heavyweight sensors or equipment, that, there's a accident prone zone ahead, or kind of a sharp curve or speed breaker ahead. There's bunch of things we can do on the software side, driven by data, driven by maps, which can kind of reduce the requirement of very heavyweight sensors, and so leading on to higher levels of autonomy. Again, you might not need full-scale LiDAR and all of those things, which will make those vehicles unviable. And let me also assure that, there's enough training data that we've been able to generate in India for all the different scenarios, and that's kind of the India innovation we've been doing to be able to help the AI/ML models for autonomous understand that, whether it's a cow on the road or a divider cart, etc. Whereas global systems, they couldn't even handle scenarios where vehicles are supposed to be coming towards you in your same lane. It's unheard of maybe outside, but in India, this is a scenario that has to be handled. So I do think higher levels of autonomy will come in India, but of course, it's going to be a phased approach. But from our perspective, we are ready with it. We'll work with the OEMs on that.
Mr. Sharma, when we talk about disruption technology, we have seen electric two-wheelers take off in a big way, but there has been a dark side to that. There have been EV fires, batteries catching fire. It seems like the steering hurry to bring the vehicles on the road has had a negative impact. How do you look at this? And is this a red flag, a warning signal that anything just because of the heck of it cannot be done? You need to be a little more diligent?
No, if you talk about the new technology, there is always a learning curve for everyone. It is not about whether it's OEM, it is about all the stakeholders, even the customer, dealers, partner. How you use your vehicle, that is very important in terms of the new technology, that is EV. Because people use the vehicle, as of today, people are not using the vehicle, they are abusing the vehicle. That is another part of the story, where the people think that they can use as it is, where, like for example, legally you can use only 2 riders on a scooter. But if you see in the villages, you go to other interior part of India, you find there 3 people or even 4 people also riding the vehicle. Apart from this, because this is a battery vehicle, you have to be very cautious about that because it is a petrol actually battery. So you have to understand when you want to just charge the scooter, charge the battery, what are the do's and don't for it. That is very important. Where the customer don't want to see that. Even the dealer's partner, they already educated all the customer when they come to the dealership, what they have to follow. Even people think that, customers think that if it is a EV, that doesn't require services. That is their wrong perception. Because end of the day, this vehicle has to ride on the roads. They need the service. It doesn't mean if it is a battery vehicle, that doesn't require the service. It is not a gadget. It is end of the day, it's a vehicle which take care of your safety, safety of your family. It's run on the roads of the roads. So we have to be very cautious about that. Because once we understand how this technology work, I think this type of problem will not occur. So as you said that sometimes the OEMs are in hurry. It is not about the hurry. It is about depends upon OEM to OEM, how they are doing their testing, how they develop their product, what is their development time. As he said about that, now the development time of the EV especially is reduced. Earlier, if you ask my previous experience in the IC engine, any two-wheeler needs to be developed, it required at least 4 or 5 years. But if you see in the EV, it takes 1.5 years or 2 years is more than sufficient because the number of parts is less. That is one of the reasons. But people think that, no, this company has come up with a very fast development and they have just bring the vehicle on the road and that is one of the reasons it caught fire or something else. So it is not the case. We have to see the depth of that. It's a learning curve. Even if you see even all the mature companies, mature technology, still the problem came in that technology also. Even the petrol cars also this time of fire cases can happen. So that is not the case. But of course, we have to be very cautious how to embrace this technology, how to use this technology, that is very important. So using of the vehicle, do's and don't is very important in the EV. And of course, the development time is very important. How a OEM do the testing of the product, that is also a very important parameter for all the OEMs.
So technology is the tool and needs to be handled with some sort of care. One aspect that we haven't touched upon, I will briefly ask you guys to give us a sense of that before I open it up for questions, is on shared mobility. Before the pandemic, shared mobility was all around us. People even started saying that it is because of Olas and Ubers of the world that new car sales were getting hampered. Now it seems to be a very different scenario. Everybody wants to travel in their own cars. What has happened to shared mobility, and is it likely to come back, or should we kiss it goodbye? Anybody, beginning with Dr. Shankar, if you want to take this.
Yeah, my personal opinion is it's very easy. We have technologies in place to ensure that even if you are traveling in a shared vehicle, still we can make sure that it's very hygienic and safe and even privacy. All those are very easily possible with the technologies available today. So I think once the OEMs bring in those features, and then shared mobility may have a comeback. That's my gut feel. Yeah.
Rohan?
Yeah. So I think it's definitely going to come back in the long term. Just the short term problem is the car companies just don't have enough cars they are producing compared to the demand. So right now they can't even give. I mean, I think there's a huge ripe situation for disruption in ride hailing because the situation with the consumer experiences are pretty bad right now. So I was telling an OEM that why don't you also do it? We'll give you the platform. And he said, I don't have enough vehicles I'm producing right now for my own consumer salesman, fleet salesman. What will I do? But I think that situation will change in a year's time. And I do think that's a very, very interesting situation that might arise in 2-3 years, where you'll have multiple networks of shared mobility service providers, many of them actually OEM driven. You're seeing a little bit of that in the goods transportation, delivery side, but I think on the passenger side also some very interesting things will happen just after getting over this short-term supply hump.
So in the first session, Jayant Davar also said something like, in the future, we might need only 1/10 of the capacity that we have for automobiles. because everything, mobility will become a service and not really something that you acquire with your own vehicle. Is that a scary thought? Dr. Shankar, Mr. Shankar,
See,
and Mr.
so
Shrivastava.
I lived in Bangalore for many years. So this Bangalore traffic is so much talked about. So I was thinking, even if you're in an electric vehicle and it has some level of autonomy also, still if you're stuck in a traffic jam, you're stuck. There is no help out there for you. The only way to bring down the number of vehicles on the road is by providing connected features and at least a semi-autonomous features. So there is a continuous communication between the vehicle and the traffic signals, vehicle and the parking lots. These are the ones which can actually help us solve this problem of traffic jams, and which is happening in almost all the cities now. I think that is very important going forward, bringing in the right connected features so that this traffic jams can easily be avoided. That is going to be very critical.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Shankar over here, because I think when we are talking of technology, the question that always comes to my mind is, what is the change in culture and discipline that is required? Are we focusing on that? I have no answers here. The other point is, what Dr. Shankar said was, the issue of shared mobility has been created by fear of infection. That is the problem. That is the problem, not technology. So, if there is a new emerging business model with so many startups, I am at least confident that in the next 2 years' time, we will have solutions to this through a new business model, and shared mobility will be back for the simple reason the intent of shared mobility was reducing congestion, intent of shared mobility was reducing consumption, and if you have to follow the trend towards a green environment, we have to look at 4 things. The 4 R's: reduce, refuse, recycle. And 4th one I'm missing. Reuse. So with that focus of sustainability or environment, shared mobility will have to stay, and it is our responsibility to motivate people. We mentor a lot of startups, so we may have to sow this idea in them. That's my opinion.
As they say that if you are stuck in traffic in Bangalore, even God can't help you. But Mr. Shrivastava, are you grappling with this thought? And this is something that internally we at ETAuto also grappled with, that what would be the terminal ICE capacity or the terminal capacity for passenger vehicles? Because I think that's a question that is now being raised. Will we sort of plateau at 5 million, or will we even get to 5 million units per annum? And similarly in two-wheelers, will it be 20 million and after that it will start coming down? But that's a question that's now being asked. Is that something that you are asking yourself as well?
Before that, first of all, let us understand why shared mobility was required. Okay, in my understanding, okay, because I also belong to Bangalore and I also have been stuck in Bangalore traffic. See, there were factors due to the economical reason, for because new engineers, they want to save money, to be frank. Second, avoid the stress in the traffic. Okay? So these are the main 2 reasons. And then third reason was sometimes from the office and the government, okay, there was, the awareness that use less vehicles. Okay, so that carbon consumption footprint is lesser. These are the mainly 3 things, I would say that. Now, after pandemic, due to the hybrid model now, work from home policy, and so now automatically that we have met with the demand that there will be less vehicle going per day, okay, because work from home is going to be continued. It is not going to last for sure. And also that passion for the new technologies. See, we all are human beings. Now there is no less dearth of money. People want to use a new technology. People want to use the mobile. Like this, car will become mobile. So if I have money, why I would not purchase new vehicle with the new technologies? So again, that's what I'm telling. It is not going to be shared mobility be there, but no, it will not impact the growth of the automotive.
I
That is
just
what-
want to add one point.
Yes, please. Yes.
So it's obvious that with shared mobility, the number of vehicles on the road will come down significantly. Second is shared and electric go together very well. If it's an individual owned vehicle, I may use it for only 1 or 2 hours in a day. Whereas a shared vehicle could be used for 12 hours or more in a day. So the return on the investment is going to be much faster. So I think that way electric vehicles will be adapted by shared mobility providers before people like us make up our mind to switch over to electric. So I think that will happen faster.
The best part is that all of these elements of case, they are all interconnected. It cannot be that one gets off and the other one doesn't. It all has to go together. I'll open the floor up for questions now. The audience, you've been listening quietly for quite some time. It's time to give you the voice. The one at the very back, let the backbenchers rule.
Thank you for allowing backbenchers.
Apparently they do well in life.
Okay, my name is Manoj Singh. I'm from Harman International. First of all, thanks for this very interesting discussion today, and great set of insights from the panelists. Coming to the question, we talked about need, we talked about motivation, mindset, driving, tech. My question is this. What's your take on user experience driving technology, especially when we are talking about more than one user in the car at a time, and all of them can expect different level of experience, right, from the technology. So what's your take on it? Any panelists can take this. Thank you.
Users driving technology. Anybody who wants to take this?
User experience will continue to be the most important factor because at the end of the day, the user should feel really wowed by the product that he is driving. But your question is also, when there are multiple users, how are you going to handle that? That's where the smart and connected features is going to be the key enabler, because the moment you get into the vehicle will know that you are different from the previous user, and it will know your profile and will be able to very quickly change the configurations to suit your style. It could be the air conditioning temperature, or it could be the speed at which you like to drive. A variety of things that it knows moment you get into the car, it will be able to easily configure itself, including the seat height adjustments. Everything can happen. And it's not very difficult to do all these things. It's fairly straightforward. So I feel that user experience will be even better with these smart and connected features coming in along with the electric. Sure.
Hi, my name is BP Shiv. I represent TAFE Engineering Plastics Division. My question is to my friend MS Shankar from Anand. To implement any new technologies, in-house adaptation, where we know that the offtake, the volumes would be fairly low and the ROI would be the less. What is the mantra to convince the board to do an early movement investment into new technologies, where we definitely know that it's going to take a longer time? So that's becoming very critical. We are talking about a lot of new technologies. On other side, we are all saying volumes for this EV or any new technologies is going to be very slow. Unless the standard IC, you invest into technology, you have your ROIs, board is ready to spend cash on the table. You did it. So I'm asking you, Shankar, how did you do it? Thank you.
3 things. Number 1, innovate in the product design itself. And that innovation in the product design has to be focused on low volume. Right? We need to understand this. There is a mindset change required. And one mindset change that we have been able to bring along in at least 4 or 5 industries that I know of is referring to the banking industry. You need to copy. Do you go to a bank and the guy says, sir, aapko 10 credit card lena hai? He provides you with 1 credit card with 1 number. What does he do? So we need to get an insight from that. So we should be able to build one. So one is product design. Second is, it is not a question of using current known manufacturing technologies to execute a manufacturing plan. You have to think different. So everywhere it is innovate. Innovate your product, innovate your manufacturing process, and Most important that is required is to deliver both of these is our experience is you need to put a totally separate team which is very small, less than 2 or 3 people, no more, no more, and they have nothing to do with the current manufacturing organization. They will not be held responsible for profitability. You need to give them a free hand. Get people from other industries. That is the mantra that we have experimented. It has been successful most of the time.
We have a lot of, I'll start again. Udit Bagga from Bagalink. We are dealers for Maruti, Bajaj, KTM, Hyundai. So now we have a lot of subsidies coming from the government, the center, state, the FAME subsidies, the local subsidies, which is making the price of EV much lower and much more competitive to IC, number one. So that is also driving cost has been the most important factor in India, and that will remain forever. So that is driving the sales to such a large extent. Once the subsidies go out, because everything will shift to electric. So what do you see the future? How will it be comparison? Plus, the other point is, we had only 4 manufacturers ruling. Now with hundreds of manufacturers coming in EV, there's going to be a dogfight for the pricing and other things. So what do you see the future for that?
If you ask about the incentive, so first of thing, when the government has started this activity of incentive of the vehicles, it is not the lifelong, this you can say policy. It is only just to give the taste of this new technology to the customer so that they can understand what is the benefit if they will adopt this industry or this technology. And of course, when you start, as already Sumant has asked me, initially when you want to develop the product from the supplier, of course it is expensive. But when you come to the numbers, and the numbers is growing, so at that time also the cost of this component goes down. And finally this benefit is going to pass on to the customer. If you see, when we started 5 years ago, that time I still remember we sell only 10,000 vehicles in first year of our selling. That time people told me if you sell 500 numbers in a year, you feel you have achieved something in your life. But fortunately, we have sold 10,000 vehicles in first year because the people understand this technology is good, product is good. Last year we sold around 1 lakh vehicles. Okay, it is not about the incentive. Incentive is just a booster for the few time, as government has already announced. This incentive is going to close by the next fiscal year, end of the next fiscal year, or 1 million vehicles once you sold it. So it is not about that. It is about the vision of a company, the OEM, what they thought about their business plan, what they thought that after 5 years, after 10 years, how this business volume is going to increase, how this correlate with their supply chain, and how this pass on this benefit to the customer. So end of the day, if you see, I'll just give you one example. When the Maruti has started in 1984-85, that time the cost of the Maruti 800 is only 45,000 rupees to 55,000 rupees. Today that they have converted into Alto, it is around 4.5 lakh rupees. Still it is the highest selling car in India. So that is not about the cost, it is about the quality. If quality speaks, people will go for it, irrespective of the cost. Because end of the day, the two-wheeler is a commuting for the lower middle class and the middle class family. Most of the time, if you see, 90% of the consumer is that only. So in that case, of course, India is a cost-sensitive market. We should understand the product should be the right product at the right cost. Your product positioning should be at the right place. If you achieve that, I think nobody can stop it. So even after 2 years, 4 years, if the subsidy will go off, it will not hamper the impact of the electrification of this industry, first. And your second question is that there's a lots of new startup and around, if you ask me today, 450 startup in two-wheeler. Okay, but that doesn't mean that, of course, first the volume is going to increase, but of course the consolidation is going to happen in this industry also. At every industry it's happened, if you see the history. So end of the day, if your quality speaks, you will survive. The most important thing is your quality, cost, and your sustainability, and you understand the need of a customer. For me, for my team, I always said that you have to put yourself in the shoe of a customer, what they want in the product, and then you deliver that product, then nobody can stop you. So I think by this approach, electrification is going to happen.
Can you speculate on how many startups will survive or how many companies will be there once the consolidation phase is over? We have about 10 manufacturers right now in two-wheelers. We have, like you said, we have over 100 startups in electric vehicles. Can you hazard a guess how many will survive?
I think this is a very difficult question. For me, I respect all the competitors because they are bringing more and more awareness in the industry.
Don't name them.
There is a history, no, that no top 5 to 10, not more than that. It
You already answered.
Top 5
Yes,
to 10.
it's always a history.
I'm going to leave it.
In China, in 2002, we were doing 4 million vehicles, 40 lakhs. China was doing 1.2 crores. India, 80% market share, 4 manufacturers. In China, at that time, 25% market share was shared by 16 manufacturers, and they had 100 plus manufacturers. So this is how it's going to, I foresee it's going to be for India. They're going to be like hundreds of manufacturers. The cake is going to get bigger. We are getting, the industry is growing 10 million plus and plus and plus. So that's where the volumes would be coming. That would be the key player.
More players is good, consumer is the king.
My name is Ahmed Khan, and I'm automotive professional. I am looking at an answer from Jeetender sir from Okinawa. In 2000 around, there were 20 telecom service provider, and there was fierce competition was there among them. And now there are only 2, and third is also struggling. The same condition I see. We are today in EV two-wheeler manufacturing, we have around 30 plus, and 15 to 20 are selling in 1,000 numbers. And that's a good. Okinawa is the highest producer in the last month. That's a congratulations to you. But now, established player with those who are having a systematic production unit for the last 20 years, 30 years, like Hero, Bajaj Auto have recently added one factory. They will be producing 5,000 plus, and TVS is also coming. And similarly, 2-3 more two-wheeler manufacturers coming. So, Okinawa, how you are going to save your position in another 3 to 5 years to remain numero 1 आज की अपनी पहली पोजीशन और अगले 5 साल में आप अपनी ये पोजीशन कैसे बनाए रख सकते हैं? जब मेरा सवाल था, ये सवाल था आपसे.
Okay. So it is not about the position. Okay. First of all, it is about the trust of the customer among that particular OEM. That is very important for me. Second thing, as you said about that, of course, you name the big OEMs, Bajaj, TVS, Hero, and all these things, Honda, all these things. If you see in 2019, the total volume of the two-wheeler in India is around 21 million vehicles. Last fiscal year, it is around 13 million or 14 million. So already there is a gap. There is a vacuum of around 7-8 million is already there. It means market is there. Only it is about, of course, you can say it was COVID or something like that. But of course, if you see, you ask me about next 5 years, what is going to happen? In next 5 years, the pie of this market is also going to increase. If you read all the research paper about the automobile industry, especially in two-wheeler, the total span of the two-wheeler spread in the Indian as compared to the population of India, it is around 28% or somewhere around like that. So it means another 5 years, this market is going to around 27-28 million as per all the study. So there is a space for everyone to accommodate that. But the most important thing is the price and the cost. That is very important. And Okinawa always believe in that. We have to position our product in such a manner we can give a reasonable product at the best price with a good quality to our customer. And that is the key for the Okinawa to remain in the market.
My name is Zahid and I'm representing a company called Metal. It's a startup and they are working into powertrain. Yeah. So as we are discussing on new ways and innovative ways into mobility and especially into EV mobility, so battery swapping is I think one of the new ways or innovative way coming in into EVs. So my question is how OEMs are looking at that technology. As battery is a significant cost of the vehicle. So how OEMs are looking for the battery swapping technology coming in future or going forward?
This is actually a question for EV Conclave, but never mind. Never mind. We will take that.
Okay. Of course, like even the government is also pushing about the swapping battery policy and all these things. But the most important thing about the business model is if you go for the swapping station, it needs a volume. Because swapping station is just like the fuel pump. It is just like the petrol pump. In India, as on today, if you talk about the petrol pump, it is more than 50,000 petrol pump across India. So we have to go to that scale. Is it possible in a span of shorter period of time? I think no. Of course, it is the future, but it will take time, but they have certain barriers for that. Like for example, if you talk about the different OEMs, today also, the form factor of the battery is altogether different. Some companies are using the fixed battery, some are using the detachable battery. In that case, it means the fixed battery OEMs cannot use your swapping station, only the detachable, but those also have the different architecture, different form factor. So first thing is, if you want to do the swapping, you have two options. All OEMs have the different swapping station. They have their own swapping station. Second thing is, all the OEMs to come to the same platform, their form factor will be common. I think it will take some time. So this is the future, but it will take some time. And I think this is also, as you said, like it is around 35-40% of the cost of the battery of the vehicle. But by the same time, of course, for the last few months, of course, the lithium prices increased. But if you see historical, the price of the lithium has goes down in the last 5 years. So I think in future also it's going to goes down also. It means the cost of the battery is not like this. It is going to be 40%, something like that. Maybe another 4-5 years, it is going to down also. And more technology is also coming. It is not about like today we are using NCM, LFP, then LTO, and maybe a future fuel cell will also come. It will take time. But of course, this swapping is a good business platform, but it will take time and need volume. That is the most important thing.
I have different opinion altogether. So if you see that range, okay. So in a day, how much kilometer one vehicle can drive? Okay, right now we have range up to 250, 300 kilometer. In next 2 or 3 years, it can come 400, 500. There are technologies. Once we have the range of 400 around, what is the need of swapping? That's simple. Because I can't drive more than that. So you have to think from that angle as well.
So that's true. Once the range anxiety is gone, one need not worry so much about it. So, but today, when the charging infrastructure is very limited and the time that it takes for charging is also relatively long, it makes sense to look at battery swap. So I would look at it as an intermediate solution. Intermediate in the sense maybe 3 to 5 years. But in the next 5 years, if the range of the battery increases significantly, the cost of the battery comes down. And more importantly, if the time taken to charge comes down significantly, then you need not look at swap at all. You'll be able to manage. That's how I see it as an intermediate solution.
Bottom line, don't rule out any technology.
There was a news item in ET. One of our ministers, very senior minister, has said that the price of the EVs and price of petrol and diesel vehicles will be same within 1 year. How this panel take it?
Sir, thank you for quoting ET and not some other publication. Thank you so much. But over to you, sir. This question I think is also for Mr. Sharma and for the others as well.
Sure. In fact, I was also there when he made that announcement. This was about a week back. And definitely, I think we need those kind of very aggressive targets and goals for us to stretch ourselves and think out of the box and come with those solutions. Because that's a need of the hour. Just routine thinking, incremental ideas are not going to help. And only when somebody sets a very aggressive target like this, we'll be able to think out of the box. And in my own limited experience at Mahindra, I've seen that happen multiple times, both in the automotive and in the farm space. When our big boss sets a very aggressive target, we are able to break all the technology barriers and make it happen. So I think that this will also happen. So I'm glad that he set a very aggressive goal like that. That's what will make us innovate. But when we do that, the opportunity is not just India. India can become a global EV hub. So that's a real opportunity. If we can crack this, there is a very big opportunity out there. Sure. We have to. Everybody, you should do it. Yes. If that's what the country needs, we should definitely do. Yeah.
So it's the government saying if the EV prices don't come down, they can increase the prices of ICE to make it achieve parity. Thank you so much. We stretched our time limit, and there's three times the bell has rung, but the audience is still here and patiently listening. So I think we have done a good job. Thank you so much. Also to the panelists, it was a pleasure having you here.